Wow. Hang on. Let me readjust this. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you to BMI for this. I've been suffering from imposter syndrome for the last few weeks after I heard about it. You always think someone's going to come along and say, sorry, there's been a terrible mistake. You're not the one. But no, it's a great honour. Who to thank? I think, first of all, to thank my mum and dad, really, because I was 11 at Christmas 1970, and I didn't get a toy. I got a thing that smelt of furniture polish and had cheese cutter wires on it, strings. And they also bought me a Play in a Day Bert Weedon book. Right, so everyone learnt from Bert Weedon in those days. And I remember getting this book and learning the chords, and I think the first song I learned was If I Had a Hammer. And I thought, you know what, I really like those chords, but the lyrics and the tune is rubbish. So I'll just do my own. And I took the song into school, because I knew one of the teachers played guitar there. And I said, look, I've written this tune, sir. And he said, well, it's Easter, because it was Easter by then. Why don't you write a song about Easter? So, actually, let me... So when Jesus rode through Jericho on his way to the cross, he met blind Bartimaeus, who his sight had lost. Jesus touched his eyes and Bartimaeus could see again. So Jesus rode on bravely to Jerusalem. And lucky for you, I don't remember any of the rest of the words. So my dad said, Christ, we've got to record this. And in those days, there used to be these things called acetate booths, and they used to be at train stations. And you could go into like a little telephone booth and record a record. But basically it was for people sort of sending good wishes to their loved ones. And so my dad took me down to Waterloo Station, and he stuck me in this telephone booth. But I was like this because it was quite narrow. He put the money in the slot, shut the door, and I started the song. But what I didn't know is that the acetate only lasted a minute, and my song was at least a minute and a half. So it kind of went, Jesus rode through Jericho on his way to the cross. He met by Bartimaeus, who his sight had lost. Jesus touched his eyes about and kind of run out. But it sounded pretty good. And I took it home, and my mum played it endlessly, and it just sort of turned to mush on the turntable. But I'd also like to thank Trevor Huddleston, who was the Bishop of Stepney at the time, and he was also the head of the anti-apartheid movement in this country. And in that summer, I was leaving school, and I'd written another song, which was called Alone, which was My Only Friend's a Sparrow, I See Him in the Morning. My mum said, you can't play that to anyone because they'll think you're depressed. But I did, and I played it at my school along with the Jesus song. And Trevor Huddleston was there handing out the prizes, and he was very complimentary afterwards. And then one Thursday night, and I know it was a Thursday because Top of the Pops was on, the doorbell rang, and I looked out the window, and it was a man in purple robes. And all these kids are sort of gathered round because they thought this would be interesting. Someone's either died or they're going to have an exorcism. And my mum went crazy tidying up, like really, really, really fast. And then the bishop came in, and he had a Philips tape recorder, cassette tape recorder. And he said, every time you write a song, I want you to record it and send it to me at Stepney. And as he said this, Rod Stewart was singing Maggie May on the telly, and I went, that's what I'm going to do. And there was that sort of, really visceral connection. He said to me, I've just come back from Africa, or he'd been in Africa, and he'd given a young trumpet player a trumpet. And he said, look, this is the sort of thing I like to do. So for a while, I recorded my songs, and my dad and I would drive up to Stepney, and we'd post them through his letterbox. He never seemed to be in. And I never heard from him again until 1986, and he tracked me down. I was living in Ireland, and he phoned me and he said, look, I'm putting together this concert at Clapham Common. It's going to be 100,000 people, and I'd love you to come and play. So I said, sure. And I'd written a song called Through the Barricades at that point. And I thought, well, that would be really suitable. And I went along to Clapham Common, and I met him again for the first time since I was 11. And he said, this is a great day for me, he said, because I gave a trumpet to a young trumpet player, and he's here as well. His name's Hugh Masekela. So I think the point of this is mentors are really important. Let me just put this down a second. And one of the greatest people in my life has been Steve Dagger. We met at school in the 70s. We were all obsessed with pop groups. He was obsessed with managers and knew them all. And he suddenly started managing our band. And he has looked after my publishing for over 40 years with such diligence and respect. And I owe you everything. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you, Steve. And talking about loyalty, Jackie, who's worked in the office for about 40 odd years as well, right? She's it. And Sophia, thank you. And I also want to thank my wife, of course, who's been very supportive and puts up with me, while she's doing all the running of the house, and I'm just sitting at the piano, playing the guitar, noodling, trying to come up with something. I'm going to sing a song. Yeah. I'm going to sing a song, and I wrote this for one of the greatest singers in the world, Tony Hadley. And so please forgive me doing my interpretation. It was kind of the version that I would have shown my brother Martin when I called him in. We were living at home with our mum and dad. And I said, Mark, I've got a song. And he would come in and I'd play it to him, and he would give me the thumbs up or down. But so also Martin, to thank you. And to thank Steve Norman and John Keeble, because without Spandau Ballet, I wouldn't be here either. So thank you.